In 2009, a Cinderella-like story happened in the world of Formula One, something you would make up and describe in a fairy tale. When one of the teams on the grid hit financial trouble, was forced to pull out, then by some miracle was saved by one of the most well-known faces in the world of F1, being purchased by an ex-Ferrari technical director, having two of the best talented drivers behind the wheel for a newly renowned race team, and its first year goes on a tear, but not just a tear, but wins the championship. What if I told you that something like that actually happened? That was the case with Brawn GP and world champion Jenson Button. But how did we get to this point? How was Brawn GP formed? And more importantly, how did Jenson Button become the Formula One world champion of 2009? Well, all those questions will be answered in the following presentation. Before I answer those questions, if you like what you're seeing thus far, feel free to hit that red subscribe button so you'll be notified and up to date with a new Formula One video on this YouTube channel. And while you're at it, turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified as soon as a new video like this one comes out. Right, with that stuff out of the way, let's get started. To start things off, before 2009, before Brawn GP was Brawn GP for that year, the team was previously known as the Honda Racing F1 team from 2006 to 2008. During that time span, the team was subpar. Not bad, but not great. Despite one win and a couple podiums, but then the global financial crisis happened, and this would ultimately affect the Honda F1 team. Being affected by the global stock market crash, Honda couldn't afford to compete in F1 from 2009 onward as a team. With that, they closed up shop. Kinda. I say kinda because this is where Ross Brawn comes in. A few weeks before the start of the 2009 Formula One season, Ross Brawn purchased the Honda F1 team, in which he ran as team principal for 2008, purchasing it for £1, which is close to $2 in US dollars. With the purchase came the name change, Brawn GP. Ross Brawn owned most of the team by 54%. Other shareholders were CEO of Brawn GP, Nick Fry, who owned 31% of the team. Nigel Kerr, who was the Honda finance chief, owned a small portion of 8%. Other ex-Honda employees include John Marston and Caroline McGrory, who owned 3%, as well as Gordon Blair, also an ex-Honda employee, who owns a very, very small 1% of the Brawn GP F1 team. The car that was developed was the Brawn BGP-001, one of the most iconic cars in F1 history. While it was kind of bland to look at considering little to no sponsors, there was one thing that stood out about this car, and that was the double diffuser. Located at the rear of the car, it helps increase downforce, channeling airflow via the car's floor. That in mind, this gave them the competitive edge over the rest of the field, including Williams and Toyota, who had a similar diffuser setup, which was, by the way, legal. I already answered the question on how Brawn GP was formed, with Brawn purchasing a vast majority of his own team under his name. Now we focus on the drivers, as the lineup remains the same as it has been the last 3 seasons, with drivers Jenson Button with only one career win under his belt at this point, and Rubens Barrichello, who got a decent amount of wins while driving for Ferrari in the early parts of the 2000s. With the information I just threw out of my mouth to get you up to speed, it is now time I answer the third and last question. First race of the year in Melbourne. It was a dream start for the whole team, as they had started the Australian Grand Prix 1-2 and finished 1-2, with Jenson Button taking top honors, leading from lights to flag. Now we come to Malaysia, where it didn't make its full schedule 56-lap race distance. Not only due to impending darkness, but also due to the heavy rain that was unbearable to drive on racing conditions. Out of the 31 laps run, few laps past the halfway mark, Button was able to lead the last 11 laps before the race got called off. Therefore, Button was declared the winner, and because the Malaysian Grand Prix was rain shortened, half points were rewarded. But it didn't concern Jenson much, since he still led in the championship by 5 points ahead of his teammate Barrichello. In Shanghai, the conditions were much like in Malaysia, very wet and very difficult to drive on. For Button, it was no problem. After a battle for position running with the Red Bulls, who would ultimately have to settle for third behind Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel, Button went right back to winning form in the next 4 races on the calendar. Bahrain, after overtaking the Toyotas of Jarmo Trulli and Timo Glock during the first round of pit stops, Button controlled the race from there en route to a victory. Barcelona, at first was planned to have a 3-stop, but changed it to a 2-stop to avoid traffic, which the 2-stopper paid off, heading to the Brawn 1-2 finish, second of the 2009 season. It wouldn't be long before the team would get their third 1-2 finish, which came on the Straits of Monaco, with Button taking the win. Most notably, after winning, Button parked his car in the wrong place at the Parc Fermé down the pits. He was supposed to park at the start-finish straight in front of the podium stage. Considering his car was already in Parc Fermé and boxed and surrounded by other cars anyway, Button made a run for it after 78 long laps on the difficult street circuit, which, by the way, led 99% of the Monaco Grand Prix. In Turkey, Button was once again untroubled and, much like Monaco, led 99% of the Turkish Grand Prix, leading all but 1 lap. Much like in Shanghai, was in close combat with the Red Bulls. Only this time, Button was able to finish ahead of both Webber and Vettel coming to the checkered flag, winning at Istanbul, setting the fastest lap of the race along the way. Heading into Silverstone for the next race, Button had a comfortable cushion in the lead ahead of Barrichello in the championship standings, with a 26-point advantage. In the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, Jenson had a quiet race, having started and finished in 6th place. That was enough to earn him 3 points. The next race at the Nürburgring, he finished 5th, earning 4 points. Then, in Hungary and Valencia, finished in 7th place, which gave him in total 4 points at those locations combined. 2 points in Hungary, 2 points in Valencia. Even so, he still had a comfortable lead in the championship by 18 points ahead of Rubens Barrichello, who at this stage was starting to get a grip to the Brawn BGP-001, especially when you take Valencia into account. Barrichello went on to win it. Other drivers to note that can challenge Button were the Red Bulls, both Webber and Vettel, both of whom sitting in 3rd and 4th respectively in the championship standings, less than 30 points behind post-European Grand Prix. Next stop was Spa for the Belgium Grand Prix. Unfortunately, in Button's case, he was one of the 4 drivers involved in a crash at the Les Combes section of the course. Had a run on Heikki Kovalainen's McLaren, but a whack from Romain Grosjean spelled game over and was out of the running. Yet, despite getting into a tangle with Grosjean, Button still holds on to the championship lead, 16 points being the gap between himself and Barrichello going into the next round, which was located in Monza. It was here in Monza, a 4th Brawn 1-2 was in the bag, but this time it was Rubens Barrichello taking the win, with Jenson Button finishing in P2. Marina Bay, Singapore was next, where Button finished 5th. Then in Suzuka, finished 8th. At this very late stage in the season, the championship was still in the cards for Jenson, considering his consistency. Rubens Barrichello and Sebastian Vettel, who won the Japanese Grand Prix on Marriott, were the only ones left in the fight to take on Jenson. With 2 races left, both were running out of time. And fast, Barrichello, 14 points behind, Vettel, 16 points behind. I mean, they better get their butts moving. Now we come to Brazil for the penultimate round in the 2009 World Championship, where Button had to make do with 14th on the starting grid. Even so, if he can muster a valid finish in the points, and at the same time Vettel and Barrichello falter, the championship would be official. For Button, it wasn't easy. From start to finish was giving it all he had, But by far the hardest challenge to overcome was to get around the new kid on the block, Kamui Kobayashi. Took him a handful of laps, but managed to squeeze his way through around the Japanese driver going into the Senna S, continuing his charge up the field. Meanwhile, up front, his teammate Barrichello was in form. At the Brazilian's expense, was on the verge of a good finish until his home track jinx came crashing down, putting an abrupt end to that. Following a left rear puncture, with Barrichello losing spots due to his worn-out tire. This slipped him down to 8th, promoting Button to 5th, well on course to officially secure the Drivers' Championship. When the checkers flew, Jenson Button held on to that 5th place position, which was enough to clinch the 2009 Formula One World Championship.
Get in there, Jenson. Fantastic. Well done. Mix 1, pick up rubber. Awesome job. Unbelievable.
We are the champions, my friends. We are world champions. World champions. Woo!
For the second year in a row, a British driver driving for a British team using a Mercedes engine, car number 22 wins the Formula One World Championship in Brazil, finishing in 5th place. Oh, the irony. Not only did Brawn GP secure and claim the championship table in the driver's standings, but they also did the same in the constructors as well, outscoring Red Bull by a margin of 18.5 points. Brawn scored 172 points compared to Red Bull's score of 153.5 points. As far as the driver's standings is concerned, after the last race of the season in Abu Dhabi, where Button finished on the podium in 3rd behind the Red Bulls, by the way, Button outscored Sebastian Vettel by an 11-point margin. Button with a score of 95 points compared to Vettel's points tally of 84 points. For Vettel, he may have finished runner-up in the 2009 Formula One World Championship, but his win in Abu Dhabi was foreshadowing of what was to come the following year. For Button, 2009, as he put it, was a roller coaster ride, and one hell of a season. It turns out 2009 would be his only championship crown, but there was one season where he was somewhat close to winning a second championship trophy. The following year, in 2010, he was one of the 5 drivers that mathematically had a chance at the trophy, but things didn't go his way and would ultimately fall out of the championship hunt. Regardless, Jenson Button was a Formula One world champion, achieving his childhood dream of being on top of the world at the pinnacle of motorsport. That being said, Jenson Button's stats from the 2009 season looked like this: 6 wins, 9 podiums, 5 front row starts, with 4 of them coming from pole, clocking in only 2 fastest laps while leading for 280 laps, with an average start of 5.7 and an average finish rate of 4.4. Rewind a few years, these numbers would be very different, scoring absolutely nothing as far as wins and podiums was concerned, along with a combined 11 DNFs. As we know, 2009 was a complete turnaround, from the back foot in a back marker car to the front foot in a front running car. From being hit by the global financial crisis with an unlikely chance of making the grid, to making the grid thanks to one of the best in the business, competing for wins and podiums, which Brawn GP accomplished just that. And furthermore, when the sun set, wins the championship in both drivers and constructors. Fairy tale stuff in a sense. But in real life, from the success that was achieved from Brawn, this was a gateway for Mercedes to make its full return to Formula One as a full-on team. That very same Mercedes team we all know today that was unstoppable for several years. But that's a story for another day.
Well, there you have it. the rundown of Jenson Button's 2009 championship season as my friend Jessica Strauss, aka No Tires Just Gas on YouTube, just explained and gave y'all the rundown again on JB's championship season from 2009, which, hard to believe it's been 15 years that this Cinderella story happened in the world of Formula One, where a team that was, you could say, that was done for at the end of 2008 was brought back from the ashes at the dawn of the 2009 season, and then, wouldn't you know it, they got right back into the game, and when they got back into the game, boy, did they come out on top. But, again, slight different video this one, because I'm not the one voicing over, again, because that honor went to my friend Jessica Strauss, who, if y'all see my 2004 Daytona 500 documentary, you may notice that she was also in that one as well. So, this is her second appearance on this Turn 4 Productions YouTube channel. First was the 2004 Daytona 500 documentary, and now her first ever voiceover on a YouTube project on this channel, which so happens to be a Formula One video, that of Jenson Button's 2009 championship season. Shout out to Jessica Strauss for taking part in this video presentation and voicing over. You did a very thorough job, in my book, with this voiceover that you did. Very thorough job indeed. And I'm looking to having you on with more of these F1 videos and, of course, other motorsport stuff that is yet to come on this YouTube page. But that's it from Jessica, and that's it for me with this little voiceover note from yours truly, and that's pretty much all that's left. That's covered up, so until then, I, Turn 4 Productions, signing off the mic, as always, and until next time, and further notice, peace out, stay safe, and have a good one. And Jessica, once again, shout out to you, and thank you for taking part in this. Looking forward to having you on for the next one.